Sometimes in life, we find ourselves walking down a road we never chose. We wake up one day and realize, this isn't my dream. This isn't my purpose. This isn't even my path. We don't always end up here by choice. Maybe it's the pressure from family, the expectations of society, or the silent competition we feel when we look at others. But the truth is, if you spend your life walking on someone else's road, you will never reach your own destination. Today's story is about a boy who learned this lesson the hard way. And by the end, you might look at your own path and decide to change it forever. In a quiet town surrounded by golden fields lived a boy named Daniel. From the time he was little, Daniel had one dream: to become an artist. He loved drawing for hours, sketching trees, animals, and faces with incredible detail. His notebooks were filled with colors and ideas. But Daniel's father was a businessman, and in his eyes, art was just a hobby, something you do when you have free time, not something you build a life around. "Daniel," he would say, "drawing is nice, but you can't feed yourself with pictures. You need a real career. Be like your cousin Alex. He's studying law. That's a stable future." At first, Daniel tried to explain, but the more he heard these words, the more he started to believe them. Maybe they were right. Maybe his dream was foolish. So when he finished school, Daniel applied to law college. The day he was accepted, his father smiled with pride, but Daniel felt a quiet emptiness in his chest. Years passed. Daniel became a lawyer, respected, well-dressed, and financially stable. From the outside, he looked successful, but inside, something was missing. Every day felt heavy, like walking uphill in shoes that didn't fit. He stopped drawing completely. He told himself he was too busy, but late at night, when the house was silent, he'd look at a blank sheet of paper and feel a deep ache in his heart. One day, while walking home from work, Daniel passed by a small art gallery. Through the glass, he saw an exhibition, paintings full of light and life. He stepped inside, and there on the wall was a painting of a small boy sitting in a field holding a sketchbook. It felt like looking at himself. The artist was there, greeting visitors. Daniel asked her, "How did you decide to become an artist? Weren't you afraid?" She smiled and said, "Of course I was afraid, but I was more afraid of living a life that wasn't mine." Those words hit Daniel like a storm. He realized he had been living not for himself, but for others' expectations. He had been walking on a road built by someone else, and it was leading him further away from his own soul. That night, Daniel couldn't sleep. He thought about all the years he had lost, but then he remembered something. A road can always be left. A new path can always be chosen. The next morning, he bought sketchbooks, pencils, and paints. At first, it felt strange. His hands were stiff, his lines awkward. But slowly, the joy returned. Every evening after work, he painted. And with each stroke, he felt more alive. Months later, Daniel held his first small exhibition in the same gallery that inspired him. To his surprise, people loved his work. Some even bought his paintings. But the biggest reward wasn't the money or the praise. It was the feeling of finally walking on his own road. One day, his father came to see the exhibition. For a long time, he stood in silence, looking at the paintings. Finally, he turned to Daniel and said, "I was wrong. I wanted you to be safe. I didn't realize I was taking away the very thing that makes you alive." Daniel smiled. It's never too late to find your way back. My friend, maybe you're like Daniel. Maybe you're doing something right now that looks successful from the outside, but feels empty on the inside. Maybe you're chasing a dream that isn't even yours, a dream your parents, society, or social media told you was worth chasing. Here's the truth. No one else can walk your road. If you're not careful, you could spend your whole life climbing a ladder only to realize it's leaning against the wrong wall. Stop. Ask yourself, whose path am I on? And is it leading to the life I truly want? Because the moment you choose your own path, something magical happens. The air feels lighter, your steps feel stronger, and even if the road is difficult, it will be yours, and that will make all the difference. Remember, it's better to walk slowly in the right direction than to run fast toward the wrong destination. So today, take one step, just one step toward the road that belongs to you. Your future self will thank you for that. If you like this story, give it a like, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more stories that can change your life.